There's something really simple that you can add into your workouts to not only increase your strength, but also increase your consistency with your workouts. And in this week's episode of the Exercise is Health podcast, we're telling you all about it. We're going to cue our introduction and dive right into this conversation. Hey, welcome back, exercisers, to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Muscle Activation Schaumburg and Exercise for Life Studios, where we believe that your health is your most valuable asset, and the single best thing that you can do to both boost and protect this asset is exercise. Specifically, exercise is geared towards building the health and function of your muscles. We're your hosts, Charlie
and Julie.
And today we are exploring something that, if you are outside of the sports performance world, if you are outside of the fitness fanatics world, you are probably relatively unfamiliar with. But this thing, when you start to add it in to your workouts on a consistent basis, not only can help you get stronger from the workouts that you do, it can also help you to stay more consistent with the workouts that you do. So if you are looking to have either of those kinds of results, increasing your strength, increasing your consistency, just feeling better overall when you work out on a regular basis, then what we are going to share with you today is of particular interest to you. Because like I said, again, if you're outside of the sports performance world, if you're outside of like the regular, like super gung-ho about fitness people's world, and even if you are in that world, you may not have heard about this concept before. We want to share this concept with you so you can start adding it in to your workouts.
You know, I actually came from like a big group fitness background, and I never heard about this concept until I met Charlie. And I was like, oh, okay, we have a week that we call like this certain style. I didn't know about that. But what happens when you start adding in this special week into your workouts is that instead of every workout being, you know, as much as I can, and let's see if I feel good, this strategy will help you feel good more consistently. Because after every single workout, we want you feeling stronger, more energized, like more body aware, more connected to your body, more balanced, more flexible, all the positive changes that we want to see with your workouts. And without this week, this kind of adds in a little bit of strategy. Without this week, you're kind of like, you know, throwing stuff on the wall and seeing what fits. So we know we have the Exercise for Life principles. We talk about that all the time. We're going to talk about that more today. But this special week helps your body recover and return to your workouts so that you can really hone in on that consistency piece of your workouts, which is what a lot of people struggle with.
Exactly. All right. So what is this one thing? It is deload weeks. All right. And the great thing is you don't actually have to change anything about what you are currently doing with your workouts. You just kind of tweak how you go about doing them. So what I mean by that is it's not like you need to now start working out more than you currently are, or it's not like you need to, you know, start changing the exercises that you're doing or anything like that. Okay. This isn't something that's going to take more time, you know, for your workouts, or, you know, you're going to have to dedicate, you know, more energy and focus towards what you're doing. It's just a little tweak with what you are already doing, and it's going to help you stay more consistent, and it's going to help you get stronger, ultimately get better results from your workouts. So deload weeks. All right, deload weeks are something that I've been adding into my own workouts for a decade and a half now. Julie's been adding them in, you know, for close to a decade, and it's something that we do on a regular basis with our own workouts to, again, like help us stay consistent, help us recover, and help us just see better results over time. So what is a deload week? A deload week is a week where you go in and you do the workouts that you were planning on doing that you would normally do, but you do them with less volume, meaning fewer sets and fewer reps, and you do it with less intensity, meaning you're using less weight. Now, a lot of times people hear that and they're like, oh, well, that just kind of sounds like a waste of time. Like, why would if I'm going to take the time to go to the gym, you know, and I'm already in the mindset of like, all right, you know, I'm going to challenge myself, why would I do anything but my max? And the answer is because if you always push yourself to your max, the likelihood that you get hurt goes way up. The likelihood that you eventually become inconsistent because you're just not up for pushing yourself to that max on that day goes up. And the likelihood that your body, you know, stalls out sooner rather than later in terms of strength gains, in terms of fitness gains and everything like that goes up. All right. And so this deload week Again, not only does it help you stay more consistent with your workouts, it gives your body just kind of like a natural recovery period from your workouts, but it's going to help you get better results over the long term as well, because you will be approaching your workouts with a fresher body, and a body that is really ready to push hard instead of just feeling like, oh, I just have to push hard today.
That's right. And, you know, a lot of times when we talk about deload, I guess the word kind of, you know, alludes to like, oh, it's going to be lighter. Then people will say like, oh, well, I normally do strength training and, you know, some, you know, maybe you do high intensity intervals or something. But on deload week, I'm only going to Pilates and yoga. We're not saying do that. We're saying actually do the same workouts that you have been doing, but change the intensity by dropping down the weight and the volume, right? So we say like 50 to 80%. So you're going much lighter, but you're still doing the same types of actions or the same workouts, we would say. So in terms of like when you're troubleshooting this in your head, like, well, what am I gonna do? You would do what you would normally be doing. So if you do like a split of like lower body, upper body, mix, and those are your 3 workouts for the week, you would still show up for your lower body, upper body, and mixture day, except you would then not go, you know, at 90% or 100%. You'd be looking at 50 to 80%, looking at how much you want to, or how much your body is needing recovery. And again, this is so that your body has time to really fully recover. And what Charlie told me when I first started this, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so ready to like lift heavy again. He's like, that's the point. At the end of your deload week, your body should be so ready to lift again. Because we've all had that experience where we've lifted heavy or we've been exercising pretty hard and we're like, wow, I know it's the day that I'm supposed to like show up for my workout, but like my body feels not ready. It feels really not ready, like I shouldn't be exercising. But when you start implementing regular weeks that you're not just saying, oh, I've maxed out, so now I'm going to take it easy. It's already planned in before you've maxed out. And for example, every 4th week, you kind of take a chill week and you're still doing your exercise. You're still getting all those health benefits of having muscle contraction, keeping your mobility, keeping that muscle connectivity, but you're just not pushing it to the max limit.
Exactly. Okay, so how often should you be adding in a deload week? Well, the thing that we have found to work really well from a frequency perspective is if you go 3 really intense weeks followed by your deload week. So like Julie was saying, it's every 4th week. It's 3 weeks hard, 1 week deload. 3 weeks hard, 1 week deload. Now what's cool is, again, Julie, like you were saying, you might get to the end of your 3rd hard week and you're like, I'm still ready to go. Take your deload week anyways. Still do your deload week, because by the end of that week, you will realize actually how much more ready to go your body is going into your next 3-week chunk of like pushing really hard with your workout. So it's 3 weeks hard, 1 week backed off with the deload. Again, deload weeks are not weeks where you don't go to the gym, where you don't work out, where you take the time completely off. It's not time where you swap out doing your strength training for yoga, doing your strength training for Pilates. You're still doing the workouts that you would normally do. You just do fewer sets, all right? We say like 50 to 80% of the volume that you would normally do. So for most people, if you're going to the gym and you're doing like 2 to 4 sets of something, knock it down by 1 to 2 sets. So you might be doing, 1 to 3 sets of your exercise instead of 2 to 4, okay? And then use 50 to 80% of the weight that you normally lose. The sweet spot that we found that actually we find works really well for people is at 70%. So for example, if you are going to press 100 pounds, instead of doing 100 pounds, you would do 70 pounds, okay? And it's going to be enough stimulus that you still feel like a mild to moderate challenge to your body, all right? It's not like you're doing nothing. There's still going to be some stimulus to your body, but it's not going to be taxing. It's not going to be overly fatiguing. If anything, it should feel like, okay, like I'm getting revved up, by doing this weight that is not near my max. Again, it's 70% of what I would normally do, but it is still some stimulus to my body. And so those are kind of the guidelines, all right? 3 weeks hard, 1 week deload, all right? Knock down 1 to 2 sets of what you'd normally do, and use about 70% of the weight of what you would normally use. And you're going to notice some really cool things when you start to do that, okay? One is you're going to start to be way more consistent with your workouts, because you're not going to be going along, pushing hard. You're like, oh yeah, I've worked out, 5 days a week for the last 6 weeks, and I'm doing great. And then all of a sudden you get this tweak, and you're like, I got to take off 3 months now. And so it was like, okay, you were 6 weeks on, 3 months off. Like that's a bad ratio, right? Like that's not what we're going for. So these deload weeks, they will allow you to stay much more consistent with your workouts because you can push, hard when it's time to push hard, but then you get the automatic recovery time built in, and you don't have to feel bad about it. You don't have to feel like, oh, well, I'm just being lazy this week or anything like that. It's like, no. You were supposed to go lighter this week. That's how you're going to get better results. And so, again, it's just going to allow you to stick with your workouts more consistently long term.
Plus, you're going to feel the results of your workouts more. You know what I'm saying? Like when you work out hard and hard and hard, which is how most people work out, because again, like what Charlie was saying in the beginning, like, hey, I've already carved out this time. I've put my workout clothes. I already have, a workout picked out on my app or with my trainer or, on YouTube, whatever you're doing. And I might as well just do all of it. I might as well go 100% or else is it a waste of time? No, because remember, the goal of working out is not necessarily the individual workouts. I mean, we can get that micro, but when we're thinking macro, like the big picture, these workouts should really be making you feel better, ready to go, stronger. And so that requires recovery. And it requires, I think, a lot more recovery than people think.
When you're pushing yourself.
Right. If you're only working out maybe once or twice a week, then you probably need to do more.
You have plenty of recovery already.
Plenty of recovery already, and you probably don't need these recovery weeks. But if you're going 3-4 days a week, 5 days or more of these heavier workouts, which can be fine if they're planned properly, you do need that time of that week, that regular week-long, chill period. Remember, it's not just do nothing period, but it's you're going 50 to 80% of your normal volume. And so this can really help you live in your exercise results. I don't know how else to say it, but you guys know what I'm saying, right? It's like you don't want to always feel depleted from your workouts. So the second thing that is really cool about including deload weeks is that when you're doing this deload, you're going to notice, especially if you've been following us for any amount of time, your mind-muscle connection or your body-brain connection is going to really increase. So when you exercise, one of our key Exercise for Life principles is focus on the muscle squeeze. And we talk about this all the time. You're going to notice that when you lift heavy, you can really feel that squeeze. But when you lift more moderate, which is what a deload week is, you're going to be able to initiate that muscle contraction in bigger ranges of motion, because when you lift heavy, your body has to go a little bit less range of motion. That's just the natural thing that your body has to do to protect itself. But you're going to notice that mind-muscle connection will really shoot up. And you want to keep doing this mind-muscle connection, this practice focusing on the squeeze when you exercise, even more when you do this moderate, because you're going to notice that since you've been practicing it at a really heavy intensity, it's way more cool. It's it's hard to explain until you've done it. It's you get to really feel that muscle squeeze without all that load, and it really will enhance your body ownership, your ability to move, your balance, all those types of changes that are harder to do when you have a lot of load.
And what's great about it is when you spend the week really practicing this mind-muscle connection and really dialing that in with the lower weight and the lower volumes, because you're not overly fatiguing yourself, you're just stimulating your body. Now you get to take that week of practice and take that skill that you've developed and then take it into your more intense weeks. And so now it has increased the effectiveness of your more intense weeks, because now with your intense exercises, you have an increased skill level as far as making a mind-muscle connection and really focusing on the muscle squeeze the entire time you're doing the exercise. And so those workouts become more effective. And then you do that for 3 weeks, and then you go get back to your deload week and get to practice it again. And so this is also a really kind of a convenient way to practice this focusing on the muscle squeeze, this fourth Exercise for Life principle, which, as we've said before, if there's one of the 4 Exercise for Life principles to really focus on, it's this one, because that one, the focusing on the muscle squeeze, that will increase your ability to adhere to the other 3 Exercise for Life principles way more. All right. And so this is a really big thing, is just being able to really practice that mind-muscle connection and that squeeze throughout the entire week without feeling oh, this weight's getting so heavy, I just gotta tune everything out and focus on getting this last rep in. It's okay, you shouldn't be doing that anyways, but if there was ever a temptation to, you won't be feeling it during this week because the weights are much lighter.
The third thing that is so awesome about deload weeks is that you can really hone in on focusing on moving slowly through your full range of motion. Now, there are a couple things that get pretty tough when you add weight and you add load, and those are the 4 exercise for life principles. We teach them to you before you start getting super heavy, but as you get better and better, you want to be increasing your weights, which makes keeping your intentions when you work out harder, because when you have more weight on you, your brain automatically goes to get out of the weight, launch it up, go faster. And so one of the things that we've noticed is whenever we drop the weight, we're able to see that, hey, you're able to really focus in on that pace, that moving slowly. And number 2, really using your full range of motion. Now, our muscles are weakest at their ends. And so whenever we start adding weight, we have to start losing the ends of motion, meaning losing your extreme ranges of motion. We want to see that you're getting to your fullest ends. I guess I don't really like the word extreme, but you know what I'm saying, your fullest ends. We want to start training in those areas and regularly practice training in those areas so that you can build strength in those areas. Sometimes when we do loaded workouts again and again and again, and we never take those deload weeks, we start to really lose those bigger ends. And so a deload week is a really great time to focus on that pace, focus on that mind-muscle connection, and then focus on keeping that full range of motion because you don't have quite as much weight as usual.
Yeah, that's right on. So these deload weeks not only are going to help you stay consistent with your workouts, they're really going to help you dial in utilizing the 4 exercise for life principles with each of your workouts. And again, it is a week that happens every 4 weeks. So you have 3 intense weeks followed by your deload week. It's not a time where you take completely off from going to the gym. It's not a time where, you go from your strength training to only doing Pilates or only doing cardio or anything like that. You're still doing your strength training workouts, but you're knocking off 1 to 2 sets of what you would normally do, and you are decreasing the weight to use roughly 70% of what you would normally use. And then from there, you get to really dial in these 4 exercise for life principles, okay? Utilizing your full symptom-free range of motion, controlling your moving and non-moving segments, moving slowly, and focusing on the muscle squeeze. And then when you do that for an entire week, you are now more skilled as an exerciser. Like your exercise skills have increased, they've leveled up, okay? And then you get to take these increased skills as well as a more recovered body, as well as increased strength into your next 3 weeks of intense workouts, which is just going to get you better results overall when you start doing this on a consistent basis. So if there's something that we strongly recommend you adding in to your own workouts, it's these deload weeks, okay? Taking them, once every 4 weeks to not only help your body recover, but boost your results in terms of strength training, in terms of your consistency with your workouts, and in terms of how your body feels and functions during and after your workouts. So if you're hearing about these 4 exercise for life principles and you'd like our guidance on implementing them within your workouts, that's exactly what we teach you to do within the Exercise for Life membership. You can get 30 days access for free to all the workouts, all the programs, and everything within the membership by going to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com. And if you are in the Chicagoland area or are willing to travel to the Chicagoland area and would like some work done on your muscles, on your body to help your body recover, whether you're in a deload week or not, to help you stay more consistent with your workouts and allow you to keep doing all the things you want to do for as long as you want to do them, is exactly what we can help you to do with muscle activation techniques. That is our specialty here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg. So again, if you're in the Chicagoland area or are willing to travel to us here in the Chicagoland area, all you have to do to see our availability and get on our schedule is go to www.matschaumburg.com. On our website, there's a big green button that you can click that says Get Started, and you can see our availability to schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment. So who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that is trying to be really consistent with their workouts, but is thinking, oh, gosh, I don't know that I can keep up this pace. I don't know that I can keep up this intensity, for the rest of forever. Share this episode with them so they can learn about this concept of deload weeks, and they don't have to fall subject to taking 1, 2, 3 weeks completely off from their workouts and then trying to get back on the horse. They can just do their deload week, still keep their workouts going strong, and get better results in the process. And while you're online, head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to us, and leave us a rating and review. Not only does it help people find our podcast when they're looking for information on exercise, it also helps them find our podcast when they're looking for information on health. So if you found value in this conversation today, let us know by leaving us a 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.